the same time, 2007, 2008, that looked at one specific industry and said, okay, we can do it better, we can disrupt. So they started more or less around the same time, they raised exactly the same seed, and both had a happy ending and IPOs in 2019. But this is more or less where the resemblance ends, because from the A round, we can see that the gap starts to widen. I mean, company B raised 11 million, company A 6 million. When they reached their IPO, roughly, I'm rounding the numbers, but the funding pre-IPO of company B was 5 times more than company A. And the annual revenue was again more or less 5 times more than company A, and also the number of employees. Now, I remind you, I'm talking about 2 companies that targeting the exact same market, and they even look the same. I mean, take a look, company A, company B, the mission statement, it's more or less the same. Well, you probably guessed by now that I'm talking about Lyft and Uber. Now, today's valuation of Lyft is $16 billion, which is amazing, and I wish this valuation to everybody here in the front. But Uber valuation, current valuation is $86 billion. Last time I checked, it's much better than 60. There are quite a few differences between those 2 companies, but I think one interesting difference is that Lyft are active in 2 countries, US and Canada, while Uber are active actually today more than 70 countries. And yes, geo expansion would be that powerful for the valuation of the company. So what I'm going to do today is, as I mentioned, review how we approach this question at Meta, frequently formerly known as Facebook. And we usually divide this into 3 questions, or 3 things. Why, where, and how. The why, well, the assumption is that we are talking about companies that are looking to grow. Everybody likes to grow like this. So the question is not, are you looking to grow, but why should you choose geo expansion and not some other growth strategy, launching a new product, addressing a new audience, and so on. Once we've established that, we are going to expand into new territory. The question is, we're more than 200 countries in the world, and how do we prioritize? How do we decide which country are we going to go next? By the way, in some cases, some companies, they know from the start that they are going to expand into a specific country. In that case, we simply jump to the third phase, how. So what do we need to understand, and what do we need to adapt in our product operations and marketing in order to make it work. Our focus today will be on the first part, on the why. We do have different presentations on the where and on the how, maybe for another event, but just one important clarification. When I talk about geo expansion in the context of this presentation, I'm talking about a major strategic move, something that has a material impact on the revenue, on the valuation of the company. And in many cases, some companies, which let's say they don't have a regulation limitation, are active in several countries. It doesn't matter. This is not what I mean when I talk about geo expansion. I'm talking about something, a strategic move, and it's important because I added the word strategic to it. And we are talking about, if you are active in a specific country, then how do you put your focus on? How do you localize, do a deep localization in this country? If you are not active in the country, how do you do the initial penetration? The same process relevant for both. So let's start with the why. Now, before getting into how to answer this question, I think it's sort of trivial. We saw it with Uber, it works. Everybody wants to have more customers, more profits. And still, it is a trivial question, but when we analyze the marketing spend of Israeli companies on Facebook, Instagram, and all our platforms, the marketing spend, 70% out of the total marketing, it's rough number, round the numbers, are in the US. In case you wonder, the US represents 15% of the world GDP. Now, most of the Israeli companies decide to start in the US, and rightfully so, it's a good market, we're going to touch it a bit later. But what I'm saying here is just make sure that you lift your head and asking yourself, are there any interesting opportunities outside of the US? Should I expand into new territory? Now, there are quite a few reasons to expand. These are not the all the reasons, but I think it's a good start. We divided them into internal reasons related to the company itself, and external reasons which take into account also the competitive benchmark, the market trends, and so on. So in terms of internal reasons, one reason could be that your current strategy is slowing down because we'll see indicators. How do you evaluate it? But it's becoming more and more difficult to grow. So maybe it's time to think of another geo. Another reason could be that you do a ROI estimation and you believe that in different countries your ROI will be better. Another one could be that you foresee a better impact effort ratio. In other words, another country is a lower hanging fruit or something which is easier to capitalize on. External, by the way, regarding the better impact and effort ratio, in case your service or product is, let's call it global by nature, like website builder or a financial publishing, then usually it means that expanding into another geography is going to have a better impact effort ratio. If we take a look at the external reasons that take into account also the competitive landscape, the market trends. Perhaps the growth of the market is coming from another territory, or another territory, Brazil, for example, and is driving the growth, and you know that you have to be present in Brazil now if you don't want to miss the train. Another reason, if we're talking about missing the train, competitors, where are your competitors right now? Are they focused on other countries? Would you like to beat them? Would you like to keep up with them? This is something, by the way, from my personal experience, this is the single most data point that all the founders and C-levels are always convinced with. And the third reason, the external reason, is about building a revenue resilience, diversifying your revenue from different geographies in order to be more resilient. And I think the best example of revenue resilience is something we all know and still live, the COVID-19. Because what happened during the COVID-19? It didn't hit, or it's still not hitting all the countries in the same way. While some countries are getting shut down, getting lockdown, other countries are open. I mean, right now we are living it, Israel is quite open, while Europe is getting shut down. If you think about it, it's nothing extreme. I mean, what happened during COVID-19 is just an extreme representation of a very normal situation, because most of the countries, they suffer from, or they enjoy different economic momentum. Some countries are in recession, some countries enjoy economic boom, some countries have social unrest, which has an impact on the economy. So the same phenomenon of different countries in different economic status happens all the time. It just happened much more on steroids during the COVID-19. Our goal is to build the revenue resilience, to diversify our revenue across different geos, and then allocate the budgets, the marketing budgets, to different markets according to the return that we see from them. And let's get back again to my favorite example of Lyft and Uber. What I did here is just take a look at the share price of Lyft and Uber, left side and right side, on three points in time. The beginning of 2020, then March 18, when the stock market hit the lowest point, and then the beginning of June 1st. Because it's very difficult to, let's say, understand anything from that, I put it on a standardized graph. You can see that both companies start from 100, and then until March 18, Uber share dropped by 50%, Lyft share dropped by 65%. And then they started recovering. Lyft share recovered amazingly, 103%, and Uber recovered 142%. And the most interesting data point is that if we compare June 1st to the beginning of January, the Lyft share price was down 28%, meaning it still didn't recover, still didn't get to the level it was before the pandemic. While Uber, 22% more. This is, in my opinion, revenue resilience demonstrated. So, wrapping it all up in terms of the reasons to expand, what we did here is simply to try to give a test yourself of some indicators like we used to do in Mariba Noor in the history. How do you know that your current growth strategy is going down? For example, you see increasing CPA, you see the frequency of the users, the time that the user sees your ad is increasing. You get the feeling that you're exhausting your audience. And how do you know that you might be better off seizing opportunities elsewhere? You have to see and make an analysis and estimate the ROI per geo, maybe lower costs, higher revenue for some reason, better impact effort ratio. I think it's quite clear. You have to assess the different the impacts or the upside from getting into a new country and the effort that it requires. And external, are you present in the church regarding your country code? I gave the example of Brazil, are you present in Brazil? What are your competitors doing? And is your revenue concentrated in one or two countries? If yes, then you should consider one extent. I'm not gonna go into too much detail on the where and the how. I'm just gonna do it very, very quickly. Tal, how am I in terms of time? 6. Perfect. So when 6 more or 6 less? Okay. Always negotiate. Okay, so when we try to prioritize the countries, again, more than 200 countries in the world, we suggest 2 approaches. One is the top-down and one is the bottom-up. The top-down is simply like a test balloon. Just put on a test campaign, a website, get people to use get users to sign for a waiting list or something like that. And the point of this test is not to improve the CPA, not to say, okay, well, we are succeeding in France. It's simply to compare the countries and to make sure that, to rank the countries. Perhaps to see better, let's call it signs of oil in France versus Italy. Okay, so perhaps France should be prioritized over Italy. The other approach, which I call bottom-up approach, starts with the current geo-rationale, because the use case I'm talking about is a company that already active in at least one territory, and now is looking to expand. As I mentioned before, most of the Israeli companies start with the US, and rightfully so, because the US is an attractive market, and there's a good ability to win in this market. It's an attractive market because of some indicators. It's big, it's growing, it's a high average revenue per user. The cross-border purchase rates are high. The ability to win, it has a good digital penetration of disruptor. The distribution channels are fragmented and not concentrated, and so on and so on. So what we need to do is to understand what were the indicators, what were the drivers that made our current geography, US in this example, what made it to be attractive, make the same analysis, build the model for all the countries that we are considering, rank those countries, and then put it on a matrix. I always have to put things on a 2x2 matrix or 3x3 matrix. And then it's quite clear which countries, let's say, resemble the most, our initial successful territory. By the way, there's a hub by Facebook called Stick and Base. Contact me later and I can send you the link. And we have Excel file to facilitate everything that I described. Last part is how. We decided to expand, we picked one country. What do we do now? The main rule first, we start with the deep market research on that specific issue. And the main rule is that we are looking for product adaptations, product operations or marketing adaptations, while we adapt or change only what is very necessary and maintain the existing experience. I mean, we are a company, we have our identity, we're not going to change everything and doing the new market. So this is the trade-off. What do you keep? You say, okay, I'm going to remain who I am, and what do you adjust when it comes to adapt yourself to the local country? I want to give this example. Then when they started in the US, expanded into Germany and some other countries, it's a very well-known story, so I'm going to do it very quick. And you can see that they adapted the image, they had IP issues, so the color is different, obviously the language, it was translated into German, but funny thing happened. The funnel of lemonade, when they start the funnel in the US, starts with the question, hi, what's your name? When they launched in Germany, they found out that once they asked the German people, hi, what's your name? Boom, there's a drop. Apparently, German people, and not very surprising, but German people are more reluctant to share personal information upfront. So what Lemonade did is just took this question, hi, what's your name, and moved it farther down the funnel. Not that the US was adapted for the Germans, and simply allowing more trust to be built, or people got more, let's say, familiar with the product, and then it was easier for them to provide them. Now, my point in giving this is not to say that Germans are less or more reluctant to share data than Americans. It might be. It's not my point. The point is that geo expansion never ends. Okay, it's once you launch in a new country, you still need to check the data and understand what insights you are generating from it, and then adapt. not enough just to do the research and enter the country. No, this is where it actually starts. You generate the data and you adapt your product marketing. And I'd like to finish this session with a very clear call to action. Be like Uber. And why am I saying that? I remind you the stat that we saw before, 70% of the marketing spend of Israeli companies in the US. And when I talk with founders or C-levels, I usually hear, my company is not mature yet, we still have a lot of potential in the US, and so on and so on, and it actually makes sense. But this I would like to answer with an example. And again, my favorite one, Uber. You might recall that Uber was founded in 2009. 2011, raised around the first geographic extension, December 2011 to Paris. Quickly to be followed by Toronto, London, and so on until reaching 7 countries. Now, ask yourself, do you really think that in December 2011, Uber exhausted all the potential in the US? Obviously not. Geo extension is a state of mind. You have to know that you're always going to look for new geographies and expand, even before you're exhausted or before you reach the full potential of your current geography. So be like Uber. That's it.
Okay. So thank you for and everybody here. So my name is Guri. I'm responsible for the global business of Cybery. I'm in the market of cyber for almost 20 years. I met yesterday some of Pasha team, and I hope the meeting was well impressed. I just want to talk to you about not only about Cybery, but in general also about what is going to happen actually in the what we call undeveloped markets or the emerging markets. But before we go and talk about it, I just want to give you a short brief about our company, which some of you already saw. So Cyber is what we do is basically develop a threat intelligence and digital risk and protection platform. It actually equipped with an overlay of managed services, and especially for emerging countries, the importance of expert services on top of the technology is extremely important. That gives you actually compensate for the lack of people that you might not have in their country. In terms of globally, we have global presence worldwide. We're very much popular in the emerging countries across Southeast Asia and Latin America. We have great presence in Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on. We have more than 100 experts, and the technology that we're using is called Argos, which is a proprietary SaaS-based, cloud-based platform that enables you actually to collect information and put sources, thousands of sources actually across the world. So, before actually discussing what we do, I'd like to talk about some cyber challenges in emerging markets. Okay? I think it's extremely important. I'll do it for about 2 or 3 minutes. It's done by KPMG, by PwCs, all of them recognize those weaknesses. The weaknesses in emerging markets, which is tremendously, adopting the best technologies and the most modern technologies among other markets, in the Western world, lacking some issues related to governance, processes, complexity of global supply chains, as well as the need to remain low cost in order to attract investors.
Glory, you need to speak closer to the mic. It's harder here.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Perfect.
okay. So, in terms of actually emerging market weaknesses, we do identify that the rapid adoption of new technologies require them to deal with a lot of cyber solutions that they're lacking of, and it has to be first and most important for them is the threat intelligence offering, because that gives them an eyes that they don't have currently outside of their perimeter, including inside the perimeter. So that's pretty much about the weaknesses as we actually see in the emerging markets. We are basically recognized for our solutions and have all the
certification issues related to compliance and ISO stuff. We also recognize my partner, and you can see here that we're a well-established company in that respect. So what actually is our approach? What do we do? What is the challenges? So here on the left side, you see actually the attack surface entry points, which is basically the digital connection to the organization data, which contain most of the sensitive information. Those digital footprints could be or attack surface footprint, could be customers that enter through portals the data, could be employees, could be social media, could be application as well as payment platforms and so on. So all of these attack surface entry points need to be able to access the information. Outside there, what we call the open, deep, and dark web, okay, which is basically the deep web is referring to the unindexed part of the open web, indexed, and the dark web is basically also unindexed, but you need a special browser in order to access specific forums. And this browser is called anonymous, okay? So not everyone can access those chat rooms or unindexed environments. Outside there, you know, in the jungle, how we call it, you have the threat actors. These threat actors develop tools, techniques, and procedures in order to access the company's data. And affect not only the data, also affect the brand and the attack surface. They're using tools, you know, such as password brute force. They're using techniques such as the attack supply chain in order actually to create lookalike or very good looking email phishing campaigns or as well as landing pages. They also have some tools like attackware or malware, okay, in order to infiltrate the company entry points. CyberRain is actually monitoring everything from the outside and providing you actionable alerts in order to see those tools, techniques, and procedures that might happen in your organizations. We are monitoring, we're providing alerts, and we also provide some action capabilities on that. We are outside capabilities, you don't have to install anything, it's basically in the cloud. So the efforts from the companies themselves is pretty much minimal. Okay. So according to Gartner, we are the only vendor that is actually able to deal with three aspects, three multiple categories in the space of digital risk protection, attack surface management, as well as threat intelligence. Threat intelligence is about collecting information from the outside and providing some insights to make better decisions. Digital risk protection is the ability to reduce risk during a digital transformation. And attack surface is the ability to detect vulnerabilities on your attack surface entry points. Okay, that's pretty much what we do in one holistic platform, as opposed to other solutions that may offer these kind of capabilities, but separately, not under one management solution. So this is pretty much actually the complete life cycle of our protection from the outside. We provide real-time discovery, domains, IPs or cloud assets. We provide detection on applications, social media accounts, EIP accounts, as well as code repositories. We also provide a broad risk coverage of phishing, digital footprint, pretty much attack surface monitoring, data leakage detection, as well as PII, fraud detection, brand abuse detection, as well as attackware tools detection. For example, we can detect CNC malwares, those kind of malwares that actually resides on your browsers and communicate to attackers actually about your credentials and anything you record on your PC or your tablet. We also remediate, so we can take down as well as mitigate against phishing sites, against applications in non-official sites, LinkedIn post fake job posting, as well as files in antivirus repositories and fake social media pages. So this is very much our layout of the architecture itself. The technology is based on Argos, our platform, which is a machine learning and classification engine that allows you basically to collect all information from thousands of sources on a daily basis. And that could be hacking forums, chat rooms, Telegram, instant messaging, almost anything that exists out there. We collect this information, we parse it, and we classify it automatically. Once we've done it, once we extract all the information, we also create on top of it alerts and prioritize the alerts per severity. We dictate per the machine learning capabilities if these alerts is high level confidence or low level confidence. Okay, so that's pretty much done automatically. We also provide expert services in order to reduce false positive, and the expert services is extremely important for especially in the emergent countries where you have not enough specialized and expert services. They provide targeted monitoring, virtual human intelligence operations, and also the investigation that we conduct against threat actors in the dark web, as well as the threat landscape research analysis about, let's say, financial sector, cybercrime. So these are actually the business risks we address brand abuse, phishing attacks, data leakage, as well as digital footprint mapping and attacker tools detection.
Wait, two things. One, 5 minutes, but two, you have to post.
Sorry?
Yeah. We'll start to get this one.
Okay.
So it's not good to be alone in this landscape in the world. We also integrate with third-party solutions. At the end of the day, we are enabling third-party solutions to pull alerts from our systems. If you have security orchestration systems as well as event management solution or ticketing systems, we can allow those systems to pull alerts from our systems. We can enable takedowns, and we can also provide targeted alerts on your specific company. And this is our all-around intelligence approach. We can provide global threat reports and alerts on issues that happen globally, let's say on the financial sector. We can also provide regional and industry intelligence that is basically identify issues on your specific regions, on your specific industry. Okay? And the last but not least is basically targeted intelligence. Means that we can provide action, organization, information, and alerts only for your company and your daughter companies. Okay? So this is very much our all-around intelligence approach. We already talked about it. Those are the business issues that for the business risk we address. And I'm going to move forward. I'm going to skip this one. And I just want to say a few words about our virtual human intelligence sources of enrichment and the special investigation that we do conduct. We have about between 40 to 50 people that are threat intelligence with expert capabilities coming from the military experience from intelligence. And this is a unique capabilities that we get a lot of feedback from customers that tells us that thanks to the people and the analysts we have, they are able to feel more comfortable. In the emerging countries, having a customer success manager and threat intelligence analyst support is extremely important. Okay? You cannot conduct investigations or engagement with threat actors by yourself. It is third-party coverage. I want to give you a case study that we've done in an emerging country with basically it's in Taiwan. It's a company, it's an organization called FISA, which is the Financial Information Sharing and Analysis organization. I guess you have in your country something similar like that. We also work in the Philippines with the Banking Association of the Philippines. What they do basically, they use our platform as an alerting system for the entire banking system in Taiwan. Okay? And the way it works, they have the national level SOC, Security Operations Center, that basically provide detection and alerts to the financial organization. And this is done by cyber that feed all the alerts to the Security Operations Centers. And these security or what we call computer emergency and response teams, they take actually cyber alerts from the dark web and phishing
and provide those alerts to the entire banking system in Taiwan. Okay, so these unique capabilities of our platform to enable actually leverage alerts creations that we can notify the banks that something is attacking them. So that's pretty much about the deployments of how we do that. Okay, I want to give you another example in the Philippines that CyberRate actually contribute to an arrest of threat actors that was targeting all the banking systems in the Philippines. Basically, what this guy did, he did actually created a phishing kit that targeted all the banks and actually create some scams. The only thing that we did after investigation that we found that we published his capabilities in the social media as well. We correlate this information and we actually identify this person. We got all his IP details and we identify this person as actually the attacker of the entire banking system in the Philippines. This information was actually handed over to the law enforcement, which actually contributed to the arrest of this person. You can't do it only with machines. You need to have also human intelligence. That's pretty much.
Okay, wonderful. So, all right. So next we have our great panel. I don't know what this- And you guys need to help me with the chairs over here. Okay, so let's do this. So you know who's in front of you. Okay, perfect. Well, try to see your designated seats. I put like pictures where you need to sit. So I would like to ask first Iris, who's from Chibore, leading the fintech team, and she'll be a moderator for today. We have Raul. I apologize. I will not try to pronounce your last name. You will say it on the stage. Raul is the business group manager for Pasha Holding. We have Toal. Toal is deputy CEO of Pasha Insurance. Lovely Gunel, please. Gunel is head of marketing in Capital Bar. And we have Faouk Ali from Pasha Holding, head of innovation. So we have your various, let's say, well, segments and concepts in Azerbaijan, and I think you need to explain a little bit more how this all connects. So I'll let you. We have 2 mics in 20 minutes, so I think we'll do like.
How are you guys doing today?
Very good. It's third day in Tel Aviv, enjoying the city and getting to know the Israeli innovation ecosystem. So far, we're very excited and impressed by the meeting and the hospitality and culture, everything.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So maybe first you can also start. I would like each of you to tell a bit about your segment activity, and I know, or about your activity specifically, but also for if you could a little bit explain about the way your organization is built, the way the group operates.
Correct. So, Social Holding is the largest investment organization. It's, I would say, conglomerate. And we are, at Social Holding, we're present in many business verticals around, and also in terms of geographical presence, we're mainly in Azerbaijan, but we are present in Georgia, in Turkey, in Montenegro, and also expanding into Eastern European countries as well. We split our businesses in 2 groups, financial businesses and non-financial businesses. On on the financial businesses, we have banking arm with two banks, Pasha Bank and Capital Bank. One is corporate bank, the other one is retail bank. Capital Bank, just statistics in terms of the users, it's more than like 4 million customers in Capital Bank. We have two insurance companies, also life insurance and auto insurance. We have investment companies, brokerage company, Pasha Capital. We have investment company, private equity company, Pasha Investment. We have Compito, which is a startup for us. It has 3 products: online marketplace, B2C marketplace, loyalty cashback program. And on non-financial business side, we have numerous local businesses, chain of hotels, chain of restaurants, chain of shopping malls. We're present in agriculture. We're present in e-commerce, in retail, consumer retail, and etc. So this is overall like picture of Pasha Holding. Me, I'm leading innovation at Pasha Holding, and the innovation itself, so far, it was in a way, like in a very ad hoc way, we were approaching innovation, but starting from this year, starting actually from last year, we put together a strategy for the next 3 years, and there were 2 directions. One of them was innovation, was part of that priority for the coming years. And we launched innovation only this year in February. And since February, I've been leading innovation in Pasha Holding.
Thank you so much. So I want you to tell about your activity.
All right. Farouk has already briefly informed you about the holding, but as a regional bank, I will probably not really talk about many things, but we are the leader bank in terms of products, in terms of customers, and the products, and also the market share. So as our strategies for 21-23, the digitalization and data governance, and then monetizing the data, and then data security. Also, these kind of topics are really interesting for our bank. What we're looking for is actually, well, we came to Israel to look for innovative solutions that we can offer to our customers, which will make us a little bit different from the rest of the market. And considering that we are the market leaders, actually the market is waiting for this. So most of the banks are just coming after us. So in terms of innovations, so we look for solutions that will benefit our clients, first of all.
Well, my name is Joel. I work for Pasha Insurance as architect, one of the members of
Maybe you can just hold the microphone.
one of the members of Pasha conglomerate, and Pasha Insurance is a typical non-life insurance company, typical P&C, focusing casualty and also health insurance. We have more than 400,000 people insured in our company. It's a typical private and insurance company that I know. A little bit over why we are here. So first of all, I'm really impressed. I have been expecting this, but I must say that I have seen many things for my expectations. So today I was told that only 1 month, 7 unicorns coming from Israel. It's just amazing. My congratulations as a nation. You are doing a great job. There are many things that we can learn from you. Thank
I would also love it if you could expand about your specific channels in the organization, the specific unique way you divide the operation of the group.
Okay, thank you. It's really nice to be here. Here is Tal and Tech family. Thank you for the hosting. It's really nice. Everything is good. The food is nice, as you can see. I'm a foodie. Yeah. If we come to what we do, so as colleagues mentioned, at the corporate center, we've started a transformation. And my team at the center, we're orchestrating basically that transformation. We do it in several streams. One of them is building an ecosystem. Another one is the data stream. We're trying to transform the organization so that we become a data-driven organization to make decisions based on data rather than based on gut. And we also have innovation stream that's sort of helping with finding the cutting-edge solutions. Yeah.
What is it that you do in the group?
So my role, as I said, we're really trying to make sure that our companies implement the data and they do the innovation. As part of data, for example, if I deep dive a little bit, we started this data program to build the data governance and make sure that all of our companies buy it in the level. In addition to that, we said that okay, we have so many companies, we need to make sure that there's an exchange between those companies. So we built a data platform exchange. On top of that, we said that once we have these things, we need to make sure that our people and their mindset is changing. And finally, the last bit of data is the building advanced analytics culture and the tools that will enable.
So you mentioned that you're looking for some solutions and innovations, but did you come with certain problems that you're searching for specific solutions in Israel? Have you pain points that you'd like to attack and address?
Okay, so as for the pain points, so one of the businesses that Boris mentioned is marketplace. So as part of the marketplace, as you may know, the success of a marketplace is the number of users. Success of it is the GMV that it generates. And one of the enablers is lending. Okay? So currently we have one retail bank that can fuel this lending. But when we started lending through one of our own banks, we noticed that approval rates are low because the risk appetite that one bank can take is not as much. So we said that we need to come up with a solution that would enable many lenders to join this lending process. So we started to look around and we found a couple of companies, and one of them is from Israeli startup ecosystem. Maybe a few probably know them, is Chapter. Currently we're in talks with them. So the challenge here for the country and for the banking and the lenders is they need to connect to the platform. For them to connect to the platform, they need to have this API technology so that they can get access to the platform for the platform to go and access certain information. Because most of our banks' maturity level in terms of technology is limited, they have legacy systems. So one of the business needs here is for someone to come and actually be able to build this API system on top of the legacy. And I think one of the startups that Tal has put together is actually doing this. So this is one of the challenges. Maybe I will add on from insurance side. Three things I would divide into three categories. First, as an incumbent, we are operating a little bit in the mature market. So, in Azerbaijan, insurance is under-penetrated. It's a typical growing market. And for me, one of the interests you is to find out what kind of competition we will face from challengers in insurtech. So this is a mature market. It's your startups, insurtech. For me, just to find out what kind of competition doesn't come from. We have to be ready and how we can transform our insurance company between that value proposition to our customers to be ready to that competitive challenge. The second, to see innovative solutions, starting from ERP to ecosystems to probably to data exchange platforms, etc. So insurance market itself is very integrated market. So in every insurance market, insurers are cooperating with hospitals, medical partners, repair shops, agencies, distribution channels, etc. So here, for me, personally, is to find out what kind of solutions are there here in the way so that we can incorporate our ecosystem. Third, I think what's the most important is how we can scale and incorporate non-insurance, completely not related to insurance solutions to boost awareness. So awareness is very low in our market. It's extremely under-penetrated. The conventional belief is that digital solutions are really good in insurance when the awareness is high. So as a challenger, you come and you propose new value proposition and try to attract customers. But in the context of our country, it's under-penetrated. So how non-insurance solutions and platforms and apps can facilitate our insurance to boost the awareness. For instance, I will give you an example. There is one insurance startup, that was built with the purpose of just an app to collect and assemble information about the investment. So basically, you go to the app, you open an account, and you just insert your possessions, your mobile phone, laptop, etc. So that was a free app built with the focus of just scanning information data.
But what was the incentive for the users?
And just to if it doesn't inventory, it's to collect and record your possessions there, etc. And then they decided how we can monetize it. So they decided to incorporate it with the insurance. So thirdly, I want to find out what kind of solutions there can be, especially non-insurance solutions that we can apply in our country.
Do you find the insurance product similar? Because only yesterday I learned that the 3-year life insurance is a model I haven't heard about before. So maybe
Yesterday and today, solutions and use cases that we work more about banking, payment systems, etc. We saw some examples of learning, so how products come to the next issue. So we will just go on to learn their experience. Thank you very much, especially for choosing us.
So now maybe you can tell us about some case studies that you've already implemented on the innovation side.
Sure. As like my colleagues have mentioned, we really work deeply with the data, and we do have our scoring models. We do implement some AI machine learning stuff, and now we're working on behavioral scoring, which hasn't been done in the country. Considering that there are a lot of neobanks, well, not on the other end, but in the world, and we do envisage the competition, so we want to be ahead of competition as well. And it's easy for a bank to score a client and issue a loan or a credit card if the bank knows its client. But when the bank doesn't know the client, it's a little bit getting complicated because of the legislation and everything else. So currently we're working on the behavioral scoring model. Plus we have implemented like first in the country the end-to-end digital sales, which enabled us to issue a loan within a minute to the client. If it's not existing to bank client, then it takes a little bit longer, but still the client does it just directly from his desktop or mobile app. So we're looking for other solutions that we can offer on top of it. Like usually banks have never had enough resources, human resources and expertise. So some fintech solutions, they just come up and we can integrate, or I don't know, the solutions that are easily integrated into our systems, into our mobile apps, and both in retail and SME sector. We were really looking forward to see them.
Okay, thank you. First, in innovation, well, do you see any specific challenges in Azerbaijan that could be opportunities?
I think when like Pasha Holding is the, I would say, like leading organization in Azerbaijan, and it's almost like present in almost like all the fields. I would say, like except energy, and we actually do a little integration with different companies or with different startups, or we do integration with the government, and we see a lot of challenges because, like for example, we have some knowledge and skills of developing some integration from our side, but we always see difficulties when we integrate with the other sides that they are not ready for this kind of integration. So that is one of the challenges. The second one is generally in Azerbaijan, the innovation ecosystem is, I would say, is at very incipient stage, at a very starting stage. So there is not much of innovation happening in the country. But we as a group, as the largest investment group, we are actually doing a lot of things, supporting the innovation in the country, and also like building innovation within the group, which impacts the countrywide. So generally, the ecosystem having a limited ecosystem that impacts our business. That's why we start looking outside country as well. We focus on a number of countries. Israel is one of the top countries that we
Rose, could you tell us a little about challenges that you may see as opportunities in the general market?
Okay. So in terms of challenges of the general market, I think the key challenge is the regulation and regulatory environment. And it's not only for the banks, but also the payment companies, potential fintechs, etc. And the challenges are twofold. First of all, for some analytics, for some good fintech stuff to happen, the companies need to know the area that they can operate. So in this sense, in the regulation, there's a lot of gray area. So companies, when they set up, banks know what they can do, what they cannot do. But in the areas of where they want to extend the edges of their operations, do some interesting stuff, regulation and the way the regulation is written doesn't really allow them to, especially.
I'm just sure many people in the crowd can relate here.
Yeah, especially for the startups. For example, we as one of the holdings, when we kick off a startup, we do things. I mean, okay, the regulator will come and tell us something that okay, you're not doing in the right direction. We'll say okay, sorry, because we have certain leverages. But for the startup community to grow and actually try something, they're really afraid of doing something wrong, because if they do something wrong, then they actually do get penalized in that sense. Now the second part of the limitations is it's on the data share, personal data. It's very strict, and it does say that you cannot share data, and it doesn't say how you can share the data. So from that perspective, in some sense it's a limitation, but in other, what we're trying to do to create to transform this into an opportunity is to actually try to shape the regulation. Because regulators sometimes is also looking to the largest players in the market, so to get support, because we have the resources to do consulting from the big names, get the best practices, benchmarks, how it's usually done. So from that perspective, we're trying to shape the market and sort of pave the way for ourselves and for others, because if there's only one big player in the market, that big player will dominate, but the market's growth will not be big, because growth and interesting things are happening when there's a healthy competition.
Right. So there is an opportunity for companies while you paving the roads, there is an opportunity for other companies to come and offer their goods.
Yeah, if we go back to the first example that I mentioned about the brokerage platform to aggregate the lenders. So for us to build an API system using it on our banks, on some of our lenders that we are shareholders, it's easy. But for others, what we should do and what we're trying to do is to actually find companies that would build the data on the list. From the other perspective, we have our own marketplace where we can put some merchants for them to sell their stuff, but we also want other e-coms to develop and have access to more clients who can get finance. In this perspective, we're even trying to enable offline lending using technology in the physical stores of our partner merchants. So the key idea here is really not to grow and as a single company, but as a market leader to enable the market transformation so that the community grows. As the community grows, we will be able to grow, and more opportunities will come. And when there's a competition, as shareholders, it's easier for us to motivate the management of our company.
Right. Maybe just one more, Will, from the banking and marketing perspective. Maybe we discussed earlier the issue of actually using cash most of the time. So all these innovative products, and how would you tackle this from the marketing perspective? How would you process this growth?
Azerbaijan economy is mostly cash economy. So it's about 85% to 15% non-cash economy. For banks, it's really hard to penetrate deeper. Like for years, we've been doing all kinds of marketing activities, all kinds of products with bonuses, cashbacks, miles, anything that you can imagine. The easiest way of paying with your phone, not going anywhere, but still people are conservative, mostly. So currently, we're actually looking for alternative ways of touching people. We're trying to learn their habits and be the part of their habits. And actually, within the holding, we're starting a new startup, like with the wallets and P2P payments. So where banks cannot go, we will try to go the other way around, and considering the love for cash in Azerbaijani people, we will try to encourage them to maybe use wallets, like put the analogy between the cash and the wallet this way. And I answered the question.
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe regulators can help on that.
Regulators never help, so we will try to push them to help.
Okay, thank you all so much.
So thank you Farouk, thank you Terrell and Ro. I'll just wrap up something because 2 seconds. And there are opportunities in other markets than the US. This, I think, what's the main things we wanted to deliver to you today. In Azerbaijan, for example, there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to cash versus non-cash. But in every market has its own trends and own information that we need to analyze and see, okay, if there's a big enough challenge, maybe we should face it. So feel free to reach out, by the way, if you need any assistance in analyzing, understanding the market, understanding the collaboration and partners. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Pasha, for joining us today. And we'll see you in our next Indicabid event, probably January. But we'll update you in our website. So thank you, everyone.